I know this is a busy weekend for many people. We've had Rosh Hashanah, and of course we have Yom Kippur in just a few days. But this is also a very important time. This is Shabbat Shuvah, historically one of the most important Shabbats of the year. That Shabbat between the Chagim, a Shabbat to keep our faith and our commitment, to remember why we're in this covenant with God and why we live as proud Jews. And so tonight we're honored. We have a wonderful guest speaker that you'll hear a little bit about in just a few minutes during our sermon slot. We know many of you are here, many of you are watching online, and we're honored this evening to have our friend Neil Tybel, who is here this weekend to give our cantor a little bit of rest. And Neil, it's always a pleasure. We haven't seen you in a few months, and we know you got to be in Detroit for Rosh Hashanah, and you're going back up there for Yom Kippur, but it's good to have you with us for this Shabbat. And so we're going to begin now on page 4, and we ask everyone to rise as we recite the blessing together for the candles for Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kideshanu b'mitzvotav Vetzivanu leadlik ner Vetzivanu leadlik ner Vetzivanu leadlik ner Shel Shabbat.
And now we've officially begun Shabbat, and you may be seated. And now let's welcome the angels for Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem, Malchei Hasharet, page 5.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitchem leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Let us go and sing to Adonai, and let us trumpet praise to our protector. Lechu neranena l'Adonai, page 11.
Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Naria letzor yishenu, nekadma fanav betoda. Naria letzor yishenu, bizmirot naria lo. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai.
Yismechu Hashemayim. We turn now to page 14.
Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel haaretz, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel haaretz. Yiramayam, 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 Umelo. Yiramayam, 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 Umelo.
And now let's welcome the Sabbath Queen, God's presence, who dwells with us on the holiest day of the week. Lecha dodi likrat kala, page 23.
Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad yishmianu el hamiuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, shemo tiferet v'litila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelecha, ki mekor haberacha. Merosh mikedem nesucha, sof maaseh b'machshavat chila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Ve'ayu limshis asrosaik ve'rachaku kol mevale'aich, yasis alayich Elohaich, kimsos chatan al kala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Yamin u'smol tifrotzi, ve'et Adonai taritzi. Al yadi ish ben parzi, v'nismecha v'nagila. Lecha dodi
Please rise.
likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam besimcha uv'sola. Toch me'umunei am segula, boi chala, boi kala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela.
And you may be seated. And now we continue to offer our gratitude to God with the words of Tov Lahadot Ladonai, the top of page 27.
Tov, tov, tov leodot l'Adonai, ulezamer, ulezamer, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. Tov, tov, tov leodot l'Adonai, ulezamer, ulezamer, ולזמר לשמך העליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, באמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון וכינור. טוב, טוב, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר, ולזמר לשמך העליון. טוב, טוב, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר, לשמך העליון. ולזמר לשמך העליון. טוב להודות לאדוני.
Now we welcome those into our congregation who are in mourning, and to those who are in mourning, we offer the words of comfort from our tradition, Hamakom Yenechem Etchem B'toch Shar Avalei Tzun V'Yushalayim. May God's presence grace you with peace among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. To those who are mourning and those observing a yard site, we'll now recite the Mourner's Kaddish on page 30. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'yamru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivarach le'olam le'almei almayah. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha b'reichu. La'ela, la'ela, min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiron bi'alma v'yamru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yamru Amen. Osei shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yamru Amen. We now ask everyone to rise for Baruch, page 39.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
You may be seated. We continue with Ahavat Olam, page 40.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, עמך אהבת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד, כי הם חיינו ויורך ימינו ובהם נגי יומם ולילה, נגי יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל.
We continue with Shema, page 41.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך ובביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
We continue silently in Hebrew or English to the bottom of page 42.
Adonai Elohechem Emet.
Who is like you, Adonai, among the mighty? Who is like you, adorned in holiness, revered in praise, working wonders? Mi Chamocha, page 44.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh nora nora, nora tehilot o seifele. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh nora nora, nora tehilot o seifele. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקי הים לפני משה. זה אלי, ענו ויאמרו. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקי הים לפני משה. זה אלי, ענו ויאמרו. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש נורא נורא, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש נורא נורא, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh nora nora, nora tehilot אוסף אלה, אוסף אלה, אוסף אלה. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Amen. Allow us, Adonai, our God, to sleep peacefully. Awaken us to life, O Sovereign. Spread over us your canopy of peace. Restore us with your good counsel and save us for the sake of your name. Hashkivenu, page 45.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom vehamidenu malkeinu לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ושמור צאתנו ובואנו ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ושמור צאתנו השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו מלכנו לחיים. ברוך אתה אדוני הבורא סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים. אמן.
Let us turn the page now, page 46, V'shamru v'nei Yisrael.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש, שבת ויהי נפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
בעלמא דברה קירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביום איכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל. בגלה בזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. בגלה בזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ועלמי עלמיה. יתברך, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל. שמי לקודשה ברכו לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמא. ויאמרו אמן, ויאמרו אמן, ויאמרו אמן, ויאמרו אמן.
Amen. And just a reminder to make sure your cell phones are silenced and make sure your masks are covering your mouth and nose as we continue in our service for our silent Amidah, page 47 through page 52. Now we continue with prayers for peace. First, page 51, Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atau melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki atau melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov einecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael v'chol eit uv'chol shah b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Baruch atah Adonai HaMevarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom.
We continue now, Oseh Shalom Bimromav.
Oseh Shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh Shalom aleinu, Shalom aleinu, aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael ve'yimru amen. Aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael ve'yimru amen. Hu yaseh Shalom aleinu, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Hu yaseh Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh Shalom, Oseh Shalom mimromav. Hu yaseh Shalom aleinu, Shalom aleinu, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'yimru amen. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'yimru amen. Amen. Amen.
And now we continue our prayers. Now we pray for those who are sick, those we know who are ill at this time, who need a Misha Barak prayer, an extra prayer of healing, as Neil leads us in the Debbie Freeman version of our prayer of healing.
Mishaberach avoteinu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing for us and all of those we love. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha avotenu. Bless those in need of healing, with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
And you may be seated now as we continue in our service, page 54, Kaddish Shalom.
יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה, ועמד יבחירותי, והמליך מלכותי, בחייכון וימכון חי לכל בית ישראל, והגלה בזמן קריב, ימרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה, יתברך. יתברך וישתבח יפר ויתמה וינשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי לקודשה בריחו. לעילה לעילה, מכל ברכתה ושירתה, תושחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. תקבל סרטון ואתון לכל ישראל, כל דם ובון דמשמיא, ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה משמיא, וחיים על לב כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום מרומם, והוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ויאמרו Amen.
Beautiful, Neil. It's great to have you back in town. Neil was in Detroit for the holidays. So we have, as you know, a special guest speaker this evening, Zafar Tahir. He goes by Zaf. Zaf traveled to Israel and the West Bank with the American Jewish Committee as part of Project Interchange, a program designed to build and strengthen relationships between the U.S. Jewish and Muslim communities. Mr. Tahir serves as the Commissioner for Houston Planning and Houston Airports, and he has a BS in Electrical Engineering from Cullen College, an MBA from Bauer, and both at UH, and a JD from Thurgood Marshall School of Law here in Houston. He's licensed in the state of Texas as an attorney and also as a professional engineer. He currently has a consulting and legal practice in Houston, and he serves on the board of the University of Houston Bauer College of Business. Zaf is also a member of AJC's Interfaith Community of Conscience Engagement, which I'm also a member, and he is also one of the few Muslim seminar participants who's willing to speak publicly about his experience in Israel and the West Bank. AJC's Project Interchange has taken over 6,000 global leaders to Israel for nearly 4 decades. Iris Mushin and our own Tracy Stein are on the board of the Project Interchange, and we're very proud that Tracy is a member of that program and a sponsor of the program. Zaf also wanted me to make sure to mention that he was perhaps the first Muslim to speak at an AJC breakfast several years ago, a breakfast that was organized by Tracy Stein. And I also want to give a shout out to Randy Sarlinsky, who is the director of the regional office of the American Jewish Committee. Randy is here this evening also with us. So now, without further ado, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Zaf to tell us about his trip.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Shalom. It's a huge honor to be invited to speak to this august gathering of worshipers this evening at Shabbat Renewal. These 10 days of awe are set aside for contemplation, or teshuvah, as you call it, and it is what I, as Muslim American, would like to do, contemplation, if you allow me to do so. I'm thankful to Rabbi Stephen Morgan and the congregation at Beth Yesharon for allowing me this opportunity. Please allow me to set the stage. I came here as an immigrant from Pakistan in 1980, barely 18-year-old. Now, after 3 college degrees, 2 professional licenses, various work endeavors, both in the US and overseas, and one in Middle East for 4 years, a lot of political and social activism in this town, even running for office. In fact, when I ran for office, Tracy Stein, Steve Finkelman, Brian Ettinger, David Mintzberg, all of them were supportive of me. A lot of ups and downs in life, but today, here I am. I consider myself as one of thoroughly blessed to be part of American society and to be associated with the city of Houston as an appointed commissioner. Yes, I'm proud to be a Houstonian, the most diverse city in America. My hands are... I'm happily married, 2 boys, and a granddaughter that was recently born, Noor Jahan. Today, my prayer for Noor Jahan in this holy place of worship is that Noor Jahan should grow up in a very pluralistic society, not just here in the US, but in the lands from where her forefathers came from. I want her to take pride in all of the Middle East, with all of its history and all of its traditions. The Middle East, with the Holy Land at its fulcrum, Jerusalem, a fulcrum that she should be able to navigate with ease, not just because she has an American passport, but because in future, hopefully, that would be the norm. The Holy Land that brings people together free from fear, oppression, and for some people, occupation. Diverse? Yes, it is. But it needs to be harmonious. And in future, I pray that it be harmonious where everyone has a voice, everyone is heard, everyone has a vote that's counted, everybody has a spot on the table, everybody has a place on the stage, and everybody has freedom to celebrate one's inspiration without violating the right of others. The region that I visited is in turmoil, and do not let the normalcy that you see make you feel otherwise. It is in turmoil not only because it is ethnically in turmoil, it's politically in turmoil, it's religiously in turmoil, but even naturally it's in turmoil. And when I say naturally, what I mean is the climate change and the recent pandemic. This climate change can wipe out borders, settlements, authorities, future capitals. The pandemic has recently shown us that it's actually a message from God that we need to get our act together. So why did I go to Israel? Why did I go to that region? Randy, who's sitting here, was the one who brought me this idea. And I said, I would like to go, but I would go in a very transparent manner. I would like to go in a manner where I would come back and I would be able to share my experiences with an average Houstonian, Muslims, non-Muslims aside. I said, when I'm there, I would like to post every day, and I did. I requested that I be allowed freedom to design my own trip. I started my trip staying in East Jerusalem for 4 days. I met with the mayor of Bethlehem, who is a Christian. His name is, I'm trying to see, Mayor Anton Salman. He's the mayor of Bethlehem. I was the guest of a reverend, a Christian Arab, Danny Akle. And that first day in Bethlehem allowed me to meet with daily people, daily life in Bethlehem. I had breakfast there, I had lunch over there, and then it was my wish that I should take the bus that actually leaves from Bethlehem and goes to Jerusalem. I didn't want it to be in a taxi. I wanted to experience the bus that brings people who want to visit Jerusalem, who want to pray at Masjid al-Aqsa, who want to work in Jerusalem. So I got on the bus. At the checkpoint, I was asked to step down with other people. There was a queue. I got in a queue. I showed them my passport. So I wanted to experience that, and I did. I spent 3 days in Jerusalem on my own. I walked all the streets. I went to the Western Wall. I went to the underground historical sites in Jerusalem. I had tea and coffee with a lot of Jewish people who lived in Jewish quarters. I met the Armenians. I'd spent time with the Arabs. I stayed actually at a hotel which is called New Imperial Hotel. It's owned by the family of Mr. Dajani Daoudi, who was one of the speakers. He is from Jerusalem. Then we started our actual trip in Tel Aviv, where on the first day we had a lot of interactions with different segments of the society. And those segments came from all parts of Israel. One important thing for Muslim Americans here in this town that they need to know is that Israel is a very multi-ethnic, multi-religious society. It's not monolithic. It's not homogeneous. There's an impression that it's mostly white European. No, even among the Jewish people, I saw tremendous diversity. I'll give you one example. 47% of all pharmacists in Israel are Arabs, both Muslims and Christians. Over 20% of all physicians are Arabs. These are Israeli Arabs who live in Israel, carry Israeli passport. We spent a lot of time discussing the security issues of Israel. We discussed a lot of time discussing the conflict, discussing various solutions. But the most important thing that we did was we went to towns like Jaffa and Haifa, where we met with individuals who are actually representing these constituencies. We met a Knesset member who brought with him his chief of staff, who was an Arab Israeli. We met with a person who is a Qadi, who's a judge. And this judge sits in the Israeli Sharia court. Now just imagine if I will tell my average American friend that in Israel there is a fully functional Sharia court system. There is a rabbinical court and there are Christian courts. And these courts are not outside the judicial system. They're part of the Israeli judicial system. They flow into Israeli high courts and supreme courts. So we met with this judge, Muhammad al-Qadi, and actually I wanted to invite him, and then COVID came. I would love to have this person here so that I can present him to the Texas Bar, to the Lawyers Association, to the general public here, and tell them that, look, this is one face of Israel, where it is accommodating the religious wishes of various religions. We also came face to face with what I call the high-tech, emerging high-tech center in West Bank. Again, West Bank has now realized that it's sitting right next to Tel Aviv and sitting right next to Israel, where there is a huge high-tech industry. So I met people who are collaborating with people across the checkpoints, and they are being successful. This is, again, a segment that needs to be on the radar screen of Muslim American community here. Of course, in all of this, we also saw the tension. We also saw the misery. And I spent a lot of time in the 3 days that I was in Jerusalem talking to people. But then, as the part of official program, we also went 2 days back to West Bank. First day we spent in Ramallah, where we actually spent a good amount of time, including lunch, with the representative of Palestinian Authority. We had a very frank discussion with Palestinian Authority as to what they think the problems are and what the solution should be. And they were telling us their side of the story, and we actually very openly told them what we think as not just Muslim, but American Muslims. One thing that I came back with is Israel and West Bank are intertwined. They are dependent on each other. This is one big holy land where all three religions come together. People from all over the world come together. I mean, there are Jewish people who have moved there in 40s from Karachi, Pakistan, where I was born, from India, from Morocco, from a lot of Middle Eastern countries. It smells Middle Eastern. It tastes the same. The people there, when they get up in the morning in Tel Aviv, in a regular suburb, their concerns are same as ours. You know, how they're going to fight traffic, how they're going to get to work, what is the safety of their family members when they go and they come back home, what is the education like, where are the opportunities. These are the things that people worry about day-to-day basis. And this is what brings people together. Recently we saw, when we had a protest in Israel and West Bank, an average Israeli citizen, I think, paid, and the media paid more attention to the protest of the Arab Israeli citizens inside Israel rather than on the West Bank. And I think that's a phenomena that needs to be noticed, because now you have this emerging power of Israeli citizens who are not Jewish, who are either Christian or Muslim. We saw in the recent Knesset elections that they play a role, and they will continue to play a bigger and bigger role. So, in my opinion, it is naturally moving toward either a very diverse, multi-ethnic, multi-religious society, or some kind of a two-state solution where people will agree to come together. My thoughts, and I know I'm short on time, and maybe I'll take some questions. Muslim American community in America, and especially in Houston, can play a role by visiting the region more and more, by meeting with the people on the ground, by interacting with people not only who are on the other side of the checkpoint in West Bank and Gaza, but also Muslim and Christian communities inside Israel. There needs to be more interaction, direct interaction with them. There needs to be maybe economic ties with them. There needs to be more social exchange with them, maybe student-to-student exchange, because that's what we will do best in bringing the communities together. So I had a lot to share. When I was there, I posted almost every day. I'm very vocal about my point of view. And if any one of you or group of you would like to get together with me, I can share the photographs and some of my comments and talk more in detail. But if you have one or two questions that I can take now, or we can do it later.
I was going to say, I think we have time for 2 questions. So if you have a question, I can call upon you and just speak really loudly from your seat. If anyone have any questions at all for Zaf. Right there. Please, and stand up and speak really loudly so everyone can hear you.
My question is, when you thought about going to Israel, how did you see it in your dream or in your imagination versus what you saw in action?
So did everyone hear that?
Yes, yes.
So it was a good question. It was, let me repeat the question.
Please.
Or I'll repeat it real quick. So good question. It's good to see you. The question was, you had dreams, Saf, you had dreams and visions of what Israel would be, and how did that match the reality of what you saw?
Of course, there are few places that I've always dreamt about going. Jerusalem was at the center of this. I actually thought that it will be, at least on the Israeli side, suffocating and maybe more regimental. When I landed in Tel Aviv, first of all, the entire process of going into Israel, the immigration part and everything, is much easier than a lot of other countries I have been to. I found it to be extremely Americanized. Tel Aviv is very much like Santa Monica in California. I found people to be very friendly. Even people who had point of view that was not coinciding with me, which was 180 degrees apart, they were open to discussion. Because people get tired of conflict. So my dream was that I will be in this splendid city surrounded by a lot of tension. And I found Jerusalem to be at peace. I found the neighborhoods to be at peace. Of course, while I was there, there were some skirmishes on the border. That's why we couldn't go to Golan. But I found it to be a place where, when I came back, I'm telling my friends that if you want to go one place that will bring peace to you, that would bring calmness to your personality, go visit Jerusalem.
We have time for one more question, if there are any more questions. Please, speak real loud so everyone can hear you.
What inspired me to go to Israel is, look, I'm a commissioner appointed by the mayor, city of Houston. I've been a political activist. And a state of Israel is a reality. Muslim Americans are very well aware that there is an Arab-Israeli conflict, and for them, that's reality. For them, the reality is that a lot of injustice was done. But it is also reality that Israel exists, and it should exist. People have a right to live. And I think that's the majority point of view now. I wanted to make an attempt to see what can I do when I come back, because I should be able to tell people that I was there. I met the people. I have exchanged ideas with them. I have walked the streets. I have actually visited places like Jaffa and Haifa. In Haifa, I visited the street where there are homes with the key. The key is waiting for its occupants who were driven out in 1948, right or wrong. So these are the realities, and I wanted to be there to come back and say, you know what, I have firsthand experience. And I would like to go again, because I think more interaction would help. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I want to thank Beth Sharon and all the rabbis. I would love to interact more. If any one of you are interested, please get in touch with them, and we can arrange something in a smaller group. Thank you so much. Shalom.
And Zaf, before you sit down, I want to thank you on behalf of the congregation for having the dream and the vision of coming and speaking here at a synagogue. I know in some circles it takes a lot of courage as a proud Muslim to speak in a synagogue, and I wish more people would follow your lead. And you set a vision of what can be. It's very easy when you watch the news to give up hope that there will never be peace in places like the Middle East, that it's endless conflict and war. But I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that people are tired of it, Jews and Arabs. And I think many of us, when we go to Israel, when we meet Israelis, Jewish Israelis, Arab Israelis, we meet Palestinians, as I had the opportunity to do years ago, we see that overwhelming majority of them are good people, just wanting to do what you and I have the blessing to do here in America, raise our kids, send them to college. Yes. But that peace won't come unless there's people with courage like yourself, who come and are not afraid to come speak at a synagogue, to say what your feelings were about that trip, and to share that experience with us. So I applaud you in your work, and I wish you only Godspeed in continuing that work. And I hope and pray you'll have a chance to go to Israel again. And I hope you'll have a chance to come back here to Beth Yeshurun. And I want to thank our friends, Randy and American Jewish Committee, and all those involved with the very important AJC, and Tracy Stein for making this happen, and Rabbi Morgan. Zaf will be available after services if you'd like to discuss more with him. And on September 23rd, Thursday, September 23rd at noon, we'll be having a Zoom lunch with Zaf and Rabbi Morgan. Just go to our website to find out more information. You'll have a chance to ask more questions, more discussion. We continue this dialogue, this partnership, doing just a little bit of what we can here in Houston, Texas, to bring more shalom into the world. So thank you, Zaf.
Shalom.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And now we'll continue in our service as we rise for the Aleinu, page 56.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו השמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו וגובה מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
And now we invite all those observing a yurtzeit and all those in mourning to remain standing for the words of the mourner's Kaddish. And this week at Beth Yeshurun, we offer condolences to the families of George Haas, Alvin Zeisman, Joel Sachs, Ronald Levinson, Barbara Horowitz, and Ida Lopatukahina. Page 58. Yitzgadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah, v'yalmad divrach hirutei v'yalmich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayeh dekol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'yemru amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam omei amaya. Excuse me. Barak v'yitba'ar v'yitroma v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol le'cha le'ela b'trad v'shata toshvada v'nechamata da'amiram v'yalma v'yemru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'yemru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom alein kol Yisrael v'yemru amen. And you may be seated. So just a word about tomorrow as we continue our observance of Shabbat Shuvah. Tomorrow, at the end of our service at approximately 11 a.m., we'll be having a special commemorative service in remembrance of the 20th anniversary of 9/11. We'll have an opportunity to listen to the cantor and opportunity to hear from all of your clergy, to share some short remarks as we as a country and as a world commemorate the victims of 9/11 20 years later. And that'll be tomorrow here in the Freeman Levitt Sanctuary at approximately 11 a.m. towards the conclusion of our service. And afterwards, we'll be having a special Kiddush, as we do every Shabbat Shuvah, sponsored by our friends Jonathan and Barbara Bailiff, in honor of Jonathan's bar mitzvah. And then, of course, Sunday, we'll continue our observances of the high holiday season with our Kever Avot ceremonies at our different cemeteries. At 10 a.m. at the Wharton Cemetery and Allen Parkway Cemetery, and then at 11 a.m. at the Post Oak Cemetery. For all of you who have loved ones buried at those different cemeteries, we would be honored to see you there in a short but important service to honor those who've gone before us. And later on next week, of course, is the holiday of Yom Kippur, our Day of Atonement. Maybe some of us wish the pandemic could cancel Yom Kippur, or maybe the fasting, but that's not the case. But it is a gift. It really is, Yom Kippur. It's an opportunity to seek forgiveness from God and those we have wronged over this past year. And we'll begin our Yom Kippur observance Wednesday evening in the Baruch Sanctuary. We'll have 2 services on Kol Nidrei to give all of you an opportunity who'd like to be there to spread out. Honestly, we probably could do 1 service this year. And the cantor was a little upset with me when I told him, no, we still got to do 2. But we need to do 2 because not only is that our custom here at Beth Yeshurun, but more importantly, we want to get as many people who feel comfortable here in the sanctuary on the most important night of the year, to give you an opportunity to be with community again on our Day of Atonement. So we know having 2 services will give people an opportunity to spread out if they like. We'll have all 2,000 plus seats available. So you can sit as close as you want or as far back as you like. There'll be, like we did on Rosh Hashanah, there'll be different screens set up so you can see the service either looking live or looking on the screens on the side walls. And of course, in the Pulaski routes, we'll have the screens down as well. So there's not an uncomfortable seat. And there's a seat from wherever you are, you can feel engaged and part of Kol Nidre. Be it 6 o'clock and then at 8:30 p.m. Wednesday night. And then we'll continue Yom Kippur beginning at 9:30 a.m. in the Baruch Sanctuary, going all day. We'll have all of the customs and beautiful traditions that we at Beth Yeshurun have had for decades. We'll have the Musaf service on Yom Kippur, our special Yisker service, our Israel Bonds appeal. We'll be having our 2 conversion speakers. Mincha at 4:30 p.m. will be led by our teenagers, followed by a sermon by Rabbi Fort. And then we'll have our Ne'ilah service beginning at 6:30 p.m. We'll have our Ne'ilah service in Barg, and we regret, and as you know, one of the hardest parts of this year, probably the most difficult part, is we can't have our children with us on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. But I love, and I know you guys all love, the Havdalah service at the end of Yom Kippur, the glow stick procession, which God willing we will have next year. So we still wanted to give our young an opportunity to have those glow sticks and to commemorate the end of Yom Kippur. So Rabbi Fort will be leading an outside Ne'ilah / Havdalah / glow stick service to end Yom Kippur on the preschool playground, beginning at 7 p.m. So for our young families, please RSVP on our website. And there'll also be a special shofar blowing to end the holiday right at 7:49 p.m. And that will, of course, be Thursday evening. We'll have the Ramco lot available, and unlike Rosh Hashanah, we will have buses there. So if you need to park a little farther away, don't worry. There will be a bus to take you back and forth from that parking lot out there to the south of our building, here to the front. And on Sunday, one more announcement. This Sunday, we'll be having a reverse tashlich with our young professionals, also led by Rabbi Fort. What is reverse tashlich? That's an opportunity to clean up what others have cast away. So they'll be meeting Rabbi Fort at the Willow Water Hole Greenway for breakfast and a mitzvah of cleaning up one of our local hidden green spots. Finally, I want to end on a very positive note. While we only have one anniversary to celebrate this evening, we have a very special anniversary. And that's 2 friends who are here almost every Friday night and celebrating their 21st anniversary, Marla and Mike Weinstein. Mazel tov. Marla and Mike, you feel very blessed and grateful that both of you, your family and friends, have remained healthy through this difficult time that we're all experiencing. You were able to celebrate your 21st anniversary in your happy place of Colorado, which also happened to be during Rosh Hashanah. But you were able to watch services online and celebrate Rosh Hashanah in the mountains. So I hope we looked okay up there. But I'm glad you'll be joining us for Yom Kippur, as you told me, and I'm glad you're here now as an opportunity to bless you. And as you celebrate 21 years of marriage this evening, may God continue to bless the 2 of you with only happiness, peace, health, and many simchas as we celebrate tonight. Happy 21st anniversary. Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
And again, I want to thank our friend, cantorial student Neil Tybel, who I think you're done with 3 years or 2 years?
I'm done with 2 years. I'm heading into my third.
Third year. So you're halfway done? Almost halfway done.
About halfway done.
Okay. In my book, you should be done. You sound pretty good. Really good. And Neil, if you don't know, studying to be a conservative cantor at the Jewish Theological Seminary in New York. And I'm glad you're back in New York this fall for you, because I know it's good to be in school, but we do miss you here. But we're thrilled that we had an opportunity to at least hear you today and to be with you again tomorrow morning as we continue Shabbat Shuvah. So Yishkach, Neil, it's a pleasure to have your family here. And we think of your grandfather. He's in our prayers for Refuah Shlema. So we're now ready to bring our service to a close. Let's bless our children that are here, that are watching online. For our sons, we say, Yesimcha Elohim ke'Ephraim ke'Menashe. May God bless our sons like Ephraim and Menashe and all the good boys of our tradition. And for our girls, we say, Yesimech Elohim ke'Sarah Rivka Rachav Leah. May God bless our daughters like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. And for all of our children, may God bless all of them with shalom, with peace. And let us say, Amen. And now, please rise at the conclusion of our service for the Kiddush for this Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'b'ratzon inchilanu zikaron le'maaseh bereishit כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת לחיים. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom.